Okay, everybody. Hello. Today we're gonna do something on the Legio Cybernetica. So it's again another retrospective video. I believe I uploaded one on retrospective Imperial Knights last week. Well, it's the same day, but I'm scheduling my videos for some reason. Anyway, I'm gonna have to look at the real life history of how Games Workshop developed the concept of the Legio Cybernetica from past all the way to present. But first, I suppose I should let you guys know that there's a written version, obviously, because like I said before, I'm primarily a blogger. I write more than I speak. This I guess PNG tuber thing is just I guess a side thing that I use to try out experiments and see how it goes. Because the media landscape is shifting, and I thought I should kind of get with the times rather than fall behind. So, but I'm not giving up my blog. I'm more of a writer. So that's if you want to read the written version because you don't like listening to my voice for some reason. I get it. My voice is not exactly very nice. It's awful. But yeah, and you guys probably get bored listening to me rant. So yeah, that's the link. Retrospectively, Joe Cybernetica. Yeah, just try out my blog if you want. If you don't, that's totally fine too. It's up to you. Anyway, we're gonna start with the Imperial Robots because that's actually the first iteration of what we know as of the Legio Cybernetica. Basically, they're known as Imperial Robots. Back then, we don't call them automata. We just call them robots because I guess it's like the 1988. So the whole Terminator sci-fi era. I guess Blade Runner as well. The 80s is a wild time. I love the 80s. We start off with this amusing fluff piece from what I think was an old White Dwarf issue, which was among many that are now collected in Index Imperialis Apocrypha. So the book itself states that this was the White Dwarf issue 104, 1988, and this was back when the Legio Cybernetica of the Adeptus Mechanicus was first introduced into Warhammer 40,000. Anyway, as you can see, there's a short story there. Apparently, chapter Captain Chavez, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, Lo siento, no hablo español, a space marine from an unknown chapter, because back then we only had chapters, no legions yet, and they want to keep the anonymity, I guess. So he's forcing an Adeptus Mechanicus technician, and yes, the keyword here is technician and not tech priest, because apparently tech priests are burrowing around, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, the poor technician is being forced by Captain Chavez to program four robots to fight off a bunch of orcs that have already wiped out three dreadnoughts. Obviously, the technician protests, saying that he needs time to conduct the rite of battle prep. Yeah, he really called it that. So Chavez, as you can see, you can tell is not exactly a very patient guy. He shoves his pistol under his chin and threatens him. Either I will kill you, the orcs will kill you slowly, or your damn robots will kill the orcs. Am I making sense? With that, the poor adept skips the rites and sends his robots to massacre the orcs. Looks like their machine spirits are fine without those pretentious ceremony after all, because back then this the whole Warhammer 40,000 was this whole satirical thing on, I guess, the Margaret Thatcher stuff, and I guess they were also making fun of stuff like pointless religious ceremonies and stuff. After that, we get a bunch of lore, so about how robots are used by all kinds of army and marine forces. So here I see there, we can go back here and you can see the Legio Cybernetica being in the book. Well, apparently robots are used by all kinds of army and marine forces because back then we were known as the Imperial Army, not the Imperial Guard. The Imperial Guard comes later. So ultimately though, the robots are Legio Cybernetica property. There's a hilarious line that implies that the Legio Cybernetica suffers 90 plus percent casualties most of the time, which is quite a hyperbole and over the top, even satirical and cheesy fluff you expect to see in the 1980s. It's it's really funny. Anyway, you can see the math here. So the Legio Cybernetica is organized into several thousand cohorts, with each cohort organized into manifolds of 3 to 5 robots, plus a Legio attack. That's what we'll call the Cybernetica datasmith or Magos tech priest with Cortex controller, or Magos Dominus, I guess, depending if whether you're in the 41st millennium or the Horus Heresy. And each cohort has about 100 or less manifolds. So on the upper end, this means you could easily have up to 500 robots per cohort, which in turn means the Imperium had at one point in time possessed billions of robots. So yeah, that's how crazy it was. I mean, even if you want to calculate on the lower end, it's about around maybe 1 to 2 million robots. Those are good times. Yeah, imagine having a few million robots running around. Anyway, um, it- on what seems to be the basis for future fluff, you have one anecdote about the Desert Lions chapter. Do they still exist, by the way? I do not know. I haven't actually heard of the Desert Lions chapter after that. So they deploy an entire Legio cohort of robots during Operation Kertak, the second pacification of Itzvan 5. Wait, what? Yeah, it's the Van 5. Yeah, there, I guess you all know what's going on here. Anyway, they have deployed the entire Legio cohort robots to attack the planet's defense forts, and thanks to the robot sacrifices, only a total of 7 Marines were lost, and the Desert Lions inducted the surviving robots into their chapter as honorary members as a mark of respect. Now that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, basically that's been the veteran of Iron Right of War in the Horus Heresy. This appeared in the old Black Book 6, Retribution, I believe, and again as a Rite of War in the Liber Studies and Liber Hereticus books in the updated 2.0 rules. Law-wise, Automata has, I guess, have always been inducted as honorary members of Legionis studies as far back as the first Heretic, where the word bearers had something, at least Cybernetica Automata named Incarnadine. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. So basically, Incarnadine was inducted as an honorary member of the Legion. That was pretty nice. Um, and as you can see, there's even I guess I guess you can see here there's a line even in the old fluff. Since the defeat of Horus, the Legio Cybernetica has pledged itself anew to the Imperium. Its members now take binding oaths of loyalty more terrible than any Marine chapter oaths. Over the millennia, they have regained the respect and admiration of the rest of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Imperial Guard, and the Adeptus Astartes. Now, the first two sentences in particular may seem pretty familiar. I guess you'll probably see them on any wiki, but funnily enough, I can't find them anywhere in the modern versions of Heresy lore, such as the Black Books. You will find them in the Lex Scanicum or 40k wiki though, so it was kind of funny. Well, whatever. Anyway, in addition to that, the old fluff talks about how robot components are interchangeable with dreadnought parts, how they're compatible, so you can repair dreadnoughts using robots and vice versa. This has been updated in the lore as far as back as the first Horus Heresy Book 1 Betrayal, where Contemptor dreadnoughts are constructed using arcane systems drawn from the Legio Cybernetica of the Mechanicum, such as the automatic arc reactor that provides energy shielding. So you can basically repair Contemptor dreadnoughts using automata parts and components and vice versa. Also, I guess astute readers will realize or notice something very familiar. Their cortex, synthesized from artificial proteins and enzymes, serves as their brains. So they're basically robot brains. And they replace firmware routines with wetware, which is held in a small slice of bioplastic. Hang on. Now, where have you heard that before? Right. The doctrinal wafers used by Cybernetica data smiths for the modern custodian robots. So they retained that part for the 2015 Cult Mechanicus Codex and Law. Not bad, this is how they looked in the past and, sort of integrate old lore and update them for modern game or modern audience or whatever. Anyway, in addition to the whole Dreadnoughts thing, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Dreadnoughts were added into Adeptus Titanicus slash Space Marine, the old epic game, as I guess walkers. And robots were added, I think, around a few months after that. I believe 1989 or 1990 in a White Dwarf article, and they were counted as Dreadnoughts. So basically, robots were the same unit type as Dreadnought. So that's where you have this whole interchangeable repair thing going on in full flow. So I think their class in the Horus Heresy 2.0 game now, they are classed as their own unit type. So rather than calling them Dreadnoughts or Walkers, they're called Automata and they have their own rules as opposed to Dreadnought rules. So it's kind of fun though, seeing all this kind of links and connections together. And you also have this crazy robot classes. Wait, sorry, that's the Contemptor Dreadnought that I should have showed you guys earlier about the old, I guess, repaired and interchangeable components. Like I said, Dreadnoughts and Automata are basically the same unit type. Anyway, you have these crazy robot classes, and back then there wasn't really much of a distinction between Imperial and Trader because the whole Chaos narrative hasn't been fully developed back then, not really fleshed out. So we are still doing this Civil War thing as justification for why similarly designed titans and armies were battling each other. So the only difference was the paint scheme. So the classes we have are the Cataphract, the Conqueror, the Castellan, the Crusader, and the Colossus class. You notice that the Castellan and the Crusader are also knight classes. Aside from all of them starting with C because Cybernetica, I guess. Anyway, um, I guess they also share they overlap with knight classes as well. So it's kind of funny. Well, not funny, I guess. Well, when you're developing a game and trying to develop a whole universe for it, I guess you sometimes end up reusing names. Anyway, they have quite weird, goofy designs back in 1988, as you can see there. And I think it's important to take note of their names because they will show up later. You see what I mean about how these older classes of Imperial Robots evolve into the automata of the Legio Cybernetica we see today. For example, I believe the Castellan robot, as you can see over there, um, well, the funny yellow and pink Slanesh one, I guess, and the red Imperial Castellan class, they developed into the Castellax and Castellan, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have the Conqueror, which became the Domitar and Alatex. We'll expand and elaborate more on this later. And then you have the Crusader, which is the Warax. You can already see the inside kit. So yeah, and I assume the closest became the Tanata because they don't actually state it, but it's the closest we have in terms of design. So yeah, it's kind of weird. But you can see how the design team at Games Workshop often look back at old concepts and update them for modern Horus Heresy and Warhammer 40,000. And these awesome artworks were drawn by, I think, the legendary Jez Goodwin, who remains one of Games Workshop's foremost miniature designers, as well as being a sculptor and an artist. I mean, just look at that amazing art. I wish I could draw like that. You see how bad my art is. Just look at my PNG tuber avatar. Anyway, it still holds up very well even today, and I believe he continued to design more miniatures later down the line. So it's a really cool line of evolution and shows the kind of development of the art, lore, and aesthetic over the years. So as you can see, even back then, there are a few very familiar designs that, yeah, I mean, just look at the insect head automaton. Isn't that basically the Warx? And then you can look at the hand of the guy on the top left. That's almost the same as the Phosphor Blaster for the Castellan robot. And then you even have the shoulder mounted gun. It's very interesting, right? I know these were all in 1988, and I think they were last seen in maybe the early 1990s. I believe that Epic was the last time we saw them, but I could be mistaken. I don't think they actually had plastic models for the 28mm game for like what 10 edition, not 10 editions, sorry, 6 editions, before the Cult Mechanicus Codex came out in for 7 edition in 2015. So basically, after the Epic system, the poor robots and Legio Cybernetica was simply forgotten or excluded for over 2 decades. So yeah, from being Dreadnought type units to written out the lore like the Knights, like I mentioned in the retrospective video on Knights. So yeah, they kind of were forgotten for like 2 decades, I guess, almost 2 decades. Uh, the tabletop game and lore for Warhammer 40,000 continued to develop in the 1990s, I mean the late 1990s, because they were there in the early 90s and 2000s, but they didn't include anything on robots, Legio Cybernetica, or Knights. Well, they did in the, I guess, uh, in the novels, the Horus Heresy novels, which I'll mention later. Anyway, that all changed in 2012 when the Horus Heresy series were released by Forge World, penned by the legendary Alan Blight. May the Emperor bless his soul in the hereafter. In fact, prior to the Horus Heresy game, the Legio Cybernetica, like I said, was mentioned several times in the Horus Heresy novels, and I believe they first appeared in Nemesis by James Swallow in August 2010. So there's this character called Gugera Ray, who was a Mech Lord and the master of the Capecan? Capecan? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce that. Cape Khan sect who fought alongside the Lunar Wolves during the Great Crusade. He was in control of 2 whole cohorts of Cybernetica automata or robots. Unfortunately, we don't actually get to see the automata or Ray in action because he was ignominiously killed off by Kalidas' assassin. Yeah, it's what the F. So, finally we see a mention of robots when we don't actually see the robots. That's kind of sad. Well, I think maybe they did show up, but they couldn't stop the assassin from killing their master, so it still doesn't really count. The next appearance of the Legio Cybernetica, thankfully, is mentioned in Aaron Dembski Bowden's The First Heretic, which was released shortly afterwards in November 2010, where Xenu 73, the tech adept of the 9 Maniple Kurtak cohort, and I'm very sure this is a reference to the old fluff regarding the Desert Lions and the second pacification of Istvan 5 mentioned above. Mentioned earlier. I'm reading this off my article script, so Sorry. Anyway, here we get the aforementioned Incarnadine, who is inducted as an honorary member of the Word Bearers following his impressive performance in combat when they deployed him. Um, but even so, I think I might actually be mistaken because I think the first ever mention of the Legio Cybernetica, uh, well, we call them not really Legio Cybernetica because the word Legio Cybernetica wasn't used, but I think the first mention of robots were actually mentioned in Graham McNeil's A Thousand Suns, released in March 2010 before Nemesis. Oh wait, actually, sorry, I mixed that up with Mechanicum. Anyway, in the Thousand Suns, I guess released in March 2010 before Nemesis, they were using what were known as cataphract battle robots. And if you remember what cataphract robots are, they are these guys, the guys on the top left and top right. So yeah, so well, the Thousand Suns were described as instead of using the Doctrina wafers provided by the Legio Cybernetica, so that was my mistake. The Legio Cybernetica was mentioned in the Thousand Suns. The Thousand Suns use psychically resonant crystals to control their automatons. I believe Graham McNeil meant to use this to foreshadow the Legion's eventual transformation into soulless automatons, so enchanted dolls encased within suits of armor. And these same robots appear once more in the Battle of Fang by Chris Wraith, released in June 2011, over a year later, and taking place chronologically in the 32nd millennium. So this was apparently the last Legio Cybernetica cohort owned by the Thousand Suns, and they were all destroyed during the Battle of the Fang, which explains why modern Thousand Suns do not have any Cybernetica robots in their army list in 10th edition, unless you happen to be Ignis from the Thousand Suns from the Ariman omnibus Ariman series. Sorry, not well. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Ignis and his a battle bodyguard robot or something. So yeah. Um. Anyway, I believe the Horus Heresy Black Books also retcon the cataphracts into Castellex Archer Battle Automata in March 2017. So this is March 2017 was the month they released Horus Heresy Book 7 Inferno, and this is I guess the first appearance of what we call the Castellex Archer Automata. And the Castellex Archer Automata are controlled by a Psi control matrix instead of the usual Cybernetica cortex. That's another story for another time if I ever do a video on Thousand Suns. But yeah, basically, it got retconned from Cataphract robots to Castellex Archer, which is still pretty cool actually. I think I prefer the Castellex Archer. It gives them more flavor. There are also brief mentions of battle robots in Graham McNeil's Mechanicum, which was released in December 2008, and it was the one I mixed up with in A Thousand Suns. So yeah. And despite the mentions of battle robots though, there are no references to the Legio Cybernetica and Mechanicum, which is kind of weird. The Skitarii do show up though, which is cool. And I guess what we want to focus on in Mechanicum is the Forge Master named Lucas Chrome. He was said to be known for his brutal Skitarii and considerable battle robot maniples. Unfortunately, the battle robots are mostly brought up whenever they try to compare the appearance of the Carbon machine, which is not a battle automata but an artificial intelligence. However, Chrome is also renowned for constructing automata, so when the Imperial Fist led by Sigismund came to Mars, well, not Sigismund personally, but because he also deployed another 2 companies of Imperial Fist and 4 Imperial Army regiments of Jovian Grenadiers under the command of Cambadias. So Cambadias is the one who actually faced the battle robots. So when Cambadias and the Imperial Fist and Jovian Grenadiers landed in Lucas Chrome's forge to gather, war material because they learned of the heresy, they learned of Horus' betrayal. So they needed to secure Mars, they needed the armor and equipment, and they heard of the Civil War in Mars, the scheme of Mars. They went to the forges. They thought Lucas Chrome was, I guess they mistook him for a loyalist. Unfortunately, it turned out that he's not. He's under the command of Kelber Hall. And when they landed in his forge, Lucas Chrome unleashed his army of battle robots on Cambadias Imperial Fist and the Jovian Grenadiers. And here's a nice description. I guess Chrome's battle robots were armed with blazing fire lances and power maces, and they basically crushed scores of desperate men of the Imperial Army. Yikes. They were even able to hold the merciless advance of the Astartes and hold both the Imperial Fist and Jovian Grenadiers in the bloody stalemate. I suppose this is where you can say Lucas Chrome is an archmagos of the Legio Cybernetica, but again, the term Legio Cybernetica wasn't officially mentioned until A Thousand Suns about a year and 4 months later. But even with this, we hardly get any details about the Legio Cybernetica until the Horus Heresy Betrayal was released in October 2012. So yeah, yep, this is a scheme on Mars, and if you can see the background, these are the battle robots, and I guess other Skitarii are trying to fight against the Imperial army in the background. It's pretty cool. So anyway, we get a little. I guess in Betrayal, which was released in October 2012, we only get little more than a small footnote, a brief mention about them imparting their arcane systems and automatic arc reactors to construct contemptor dreadnoughts for the Astartes legions. So it wasn't actually until the Horus Heresy Book 2 Massacre that was released in October 2013 that we finally get an updated expansion of the Legio Cybernetica. So yeah, you can read there. I might as well read it out for you since I'm doing this video. So the Legio Cybernetica is one of the most feared and powerful of the Legionis militant of the Mechanicum. Um, so they carry the onerous burden and dread responsibility of the use of battle automata in warfare, as well as the development, propagation, and maintenance of these terrifying machines under secret charge of the Chrism Accords of Mars. These secret accords were one of the cornerstones of doctrinal law created during the foundation of the Mechanicum during the Age of Strife, and forever forbade the creation of abominable and soulless intelligence known as the Silica Animus. God, I hate Latin. And pronounce a death sentence on any of who remained or any magos or mortal who would serve or seek to create them. These accords, however, allowed the survival and creation of the lesser and righteous works of synthetic life deemed sacred, the Bestia Mechanica and the Kinred, and of these, the robotic engines designed for warfare and slaughter, the battle automata, were given to the hands of the newly founded Legio Cybernetica to control. Wary of these supreme killing machines could wield, if joined together, power enough to overthrow empires as they had done in dark times, it was decreed from the beginning of that the Legio Cybernetica would be broken down into a myriad of self-contained and relatively small independent units known as cohorts, effectively limiting the power any archmagos of the Legio could wield. The destructive power of the cohort resting in an array between 30 to 100 battle automata maniples, each comprising between 1 and 5 of the secret war engines. Each cohort was governed by a senior tech priest of the machine cult, with whom the secret law of the Cybernetica resided, and below them a covenant of Magos Dominus who would govern the war machines themselves in the thick of battle. Myrmidons sworn to the cohort service, and their own engineers, servitors, and trolls who would see to the cohort's needs, both on and off the battlefield. The cohorts also commanded their own support networks, mobile workshops, transports, battlefield vehicles, orbital landers, and even star vessels in some cases, but were otherwise forbidden to found their own forges or chantries, making them dependent on webs of fealty, supply, and patronage from the great machine lords of the Mechanicum and its forge worlds for their long-term survival and prosperity. The service of the Legio Cybernetica on the field of battle was part and parcel of the Mechanicum's Treaty of Union with the Emperor, and a great many cohorts transferred from duties as defenders of the forge worlds and retainers of the great Mechanicum factions and sects to act as Medican regiments in the Great Crusade, fighting on every battlefield imaginable and serving many masters. If people are wondering what the word Medican means, it means nomadic, basically. Although their battle automata were difficult to construct and maintain, the arcane law of the Legio Cybernetica's Magos and the they enjoyed on the battlefield ensured that several thousand active cohorts were in existence at the outbreak of the Horus Heresy. The cohorts of the Legio Cybernetica were greatly valued by the forces of the Great Crusade and served alongside many of the Legionis Astartes, rogue traders militant, knight houses, and Imperial army hosts, although others feared and shunned them in the memory of the horrors of old night, because when the thinking machines became sentient and started killing humans for no reason. When the wars of the Horus Heresy came, the independent nature of the Legio Cybernetica's cohorts ensured that, as a whole, they sided in particular neither with loyalists or traitor, but were split between masters they had long fought for in many cases. Other cohorts, mindful of their oaths of loyalty to the Emperor or fearful of a descent into anarchy, saw the traitors as base renegades to be destroyed, while others harbored ambitions to be free of the Chrism Accords and saw the War Masters' wars as a chance to pursue long forbidden rights and technologies. So if you skip that, because I don't really like rambling like that. Sorry about that. Long story short, the creation of AI was banned. The Legio Cybernetica was extremely powerful because of their battle automata, which are deployed in cores that may contain anywhere between 30 to 100 maniples, each of which comprising between 1 to 5 automata. So you can have like, whoa, 5,500, up to 500 robots in a single cohort, which is kind of cool actually. And to control their power, they weren't allowed to found their own forges or chanceries, so they have to rely on other mechanical magi and forge wolves for construction and repairs. And they also participated in the Great Crusade. So the again, you know, this is a callback to the old gaining the respect of the Imperial Army and Legionist studies. But now we have Night House in the mix as well. So yeah, that's a too long didn't read version. So, like Contemptor Dreadnoughts, I guess, the battle automata have automatic shielding because they are basically using the same technology. Powered by their automatic reactor cores, so they kind of generate this, I guess, barrier energy field that gives them an invulnerable save, basically. The battle automata also have Cybernetica Cortex, so it's a throwback to the old fluff, if you recall. The Cortex I mentioned earlier. And unlike the Castellan robots who require swapping of Doctrina wafers or wetware, apparently the battle automata of the 31st millennium function differently. So yeah, never mind. I think we'll still stick here. The cybernetical cortex remains the same, so a synthetic brain that's a complex bioplastic mass with its own nervous system, sorry, and once again guided by a program framework of encoded behavior. So unlike the poor cybernetical data smiths of modern 41st millennium, who have to run from Castellan robot to robot to manually swap out Doctrina wafers, which is kind of troublesome if you think about it. Mechanical adepts of the 31st millennium instead have Cortex controllers, which is a control and signaling device that uses data genes. I don't know what the hell data genes are. They are like maybe machine spirit type of things, either that or they are like cyborg fairies to command battle automata remotely. In other words, they just need to be within 12 inches of the automata to control them. So this kind of unlike the Cybernetica data smith who have to be in the same unit or squad as his Castellan robots. So yeah, that's the in 10th edition now. He's a character that you attach to a squad. So these Cortex automata are built for war using knowledge from the Dark Age of technology. So they are basically robots from the Dark Age of technology. Uh, yeah, so the Cybernetica is usually led by Magos Dominus or Archmagos Dominus, depending on the rank. They are masters of the arts of the Legio Cybernetica, and they lead their Legio Cybernetica cohorts under service to an Archmagos Prime. So, though for obvious reasons, the Archmagos Prime of the Cybernetica orders are basically Archmagos Dominus Prime, so whatever. They are known for modifying themselves greatly, probably altering themselves to resemble more like the automata they are in charge of. And they are renowned for their skills in the arcana of Cybernetica, allowing them to be cyberturgies, particularly specializing in the cyberturgy arcana of the Artificia Cybernetica. Oh wow, that's quite a mouthful. And then you have the Castellax battle automata, which is the most common Castellan type battle automata in service and is a general battle unit developed during the Great Crusade for siege and shock assaults. So yeah, remember I said about Castellax robots in the White Dwarf from 1990? They make a comeback. So the Castellax is basically a type of Castellan robot. So yeah, a variant like I guess the Titans. I'll talk about the Nightgaunt and what was Nemesis variants of Warlord Titans in an Adaptus Titanicus video later. But yeah, for now, yeah, just know that even if you have a specific type of robots like Castellan, you have all these different variants like Castellax and Castellan. So Castellax robots, called Castellax Battle Automata as they are more, I guess, officially known. They are highly armored and durable and make use of the same automatic shielding technology as the Contemptor Dreadnoughts. Uh, we say that, but they still have a 3-up save compared to the 2-up save of Contemptor Dreadnoughts, which is kind of funny. A mainstay of the Legio Cybernetica, they are deployed in large numbers during the Heresy, but the toll of the Great Betrayal meant that they would never be seen in such force again. Still, they can be armed with a main armament of either a Mauler bolt cannon, a Darkfire cannon, or multi-melta, depending on whatever flavor you like. Their hands carry either twin bolters or flamers, and they have shock chargers, power blades, or siege wreckers for melee weapons. So I guess it's up to you to equip them however you like. Then you have the Domitar Battle Automata, which is a sophisticated variant of the ancient Conqueror pattern. Again, Conqueror type robots, remember that in the White Dwarf. And they are designed as a swift line breaker that can cross the open battlefield and crash into the enemy. So they are armed with graviton hammers, and they can pulverize tanks and even challenge Legionis Astartes dreadnoughts in combat. So yeah, they have a better weapon skill, WS4 if I'm not mistaken. They also come with missile launchers for flexibility. Um, how flexible? I have no idea. So, and then you have my favorite, the Tanata Siege Automata. It's a heavy mobile artillery platform that is armed with a Helex, a plasma mortar that launches dense spheres of blazing plasma on arcing trajectories and into the heart of enemy fortifications. They are massive and heavily reinforced, making them impervious to small arms fire, and they are protected by an automatic shield array, so they are incredibly durable. The Helix Plasma Mortar used to have this plasma wave rule that forces your opponent to reroll successful cover saves for their for the infantry that passed their cover saves, which is kind of cool. I don't think that made it in 2.0. I guess they wanted to simplify the rules. They are also I guess massive and heavily reinforced, making them impervious to small arms fire. That's toughness 8 for you, meaning strength 3 and strength 4 weapons don't affect them. And they are protected by an automatic shielding array. So yeah, they can replace their Helex plasma mortar with a Solex heavy las cannon, which was a product by the Solex Myrmidon and Omega Sheva Covenant of the Order Reductor, plus obviously Legio Cybernetica representatives. And this allows them to punch through fortifications with devastating firepower. This variant, known as the Tanata Calyx, also possesses a graviton ram to destroy vehicles in close range. And then do you remember the Rex Battle Automata from the old 1980s the sketch? Well, Forgewell decided to revisit the design, and it was released in May 2014 in Horus Heresy Extermination. So they are hunter-killer units, and they are based off the ancient and revered Crusader template pattern. I guess you can see the pattern. Dispatched to search and destroy rogue machines and mutant vermin on Mars, their cybernetica engrams are particularly predatory, and vicious, which kind of makes sense given how they look like giant mantises. So yeah, mantis are predatory insects, so they feed on other insects, and the females, they kill the males after mating with them. So yeah, very vicious things. They are armed with power blades and rotor cannons, and they have a carapace lightning gun that can be replaced with an erect cleanser. And erect cleanser, what's that? It's a radioactive flamer, basically. Then you have the Voltrex Stratos Automata, which was the most common Stratos Automata used by the Mechanicum during the Heresy. Not that we have any other Stratos Automata that we know of right now. So yeah, I believe Bella Sirius Call was actually piloting one of these Voltrex Stratos Automata in Wolfsbane by Guy Haley. So it's this robust multi-role war engine, heavily armed and fitted with sophisticated sensory gear and able to operate in diverse and hostile environments. It also serves as a high mobility scout, a hunter killer and rapid response unit in open battle. I think our dear Balisirius was using it as a scout unit, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if they removed the weapons of that, and I know he kind of crashed it or something. I had to reread Wolfsbane. It's been a while since I read that. And apparently, they were designed from patterns for autonomous aerial machines found within ancient pre-Imperium STC templates and constructed around a powerful variant of the Cybernetica Cortex as its control mechanism. Sorry. It's armed with the Voltrex Arc Blaster that can fry the electronic systems of vehicles or shut out circuits in dreadnoughts and automata, as well as two Centennial pattern Havoc launchers. Yeah. And I know most of you probably know about this, but they are also the kind of um, the base for the what we know as the Death Guard's fitted bloat drones. Sorry, I don't play get Death Guard. So if any Death Guard players, you know this better than me. They're basically the fitted bloat drones. Yeah. And then you have you have something called the Alatex Battle Automata. Whoops, that's the Castellan robot. Sorry, wrong picture. But we don't actually have a model for the Alatex, so sorry, you gotta make do with that. So all we can do return to wrong correct. Anyway, they are the only Mechanicum unit so far to not have an official model, and they are a variant of the ancient and versatile Conqueror Automata. So they are a rapid moving shock sword unit that was constructed by both Zana and Artamidian, and they were jump pack automata armed with power claws and a plasma blaster. They can replace their power claws with an arc Scourge. So yeah, that's all we know about the Alatex. And this brings us to the modern Legio Cybernetica of the 41st millennium, and that's where we get to this picture now, which mostly originates from 2015 Cult Mechanicus Codex and forms what we know about Imperial Robots today. So this is the ubiquitous Castilian robots of modern 41st millennium. They are considered relics as they have endured from an age from before the Imperium, and they're constructed from solid metal and ceramite, and are incredibly resilient not only because of those materials, but also their repulsor grid. For some reason, the repulsor grid is different from the automatic shielding that is used by other battle automata or contemptor dreadnoughts. But what it does is that it allows us to reflect attacks on the row of 6 for saving throws. So yeah, they are armed with carapace mounted incendium combustors, which are basically more powerful flamethrowers or heavy phosphor blasters. And they either spot power fist and slash or hand mounted phosphor blasters in a combination. Like I said, the old Jazz Goodwin's art design concept. So yeah, they basically have this a similar phosphor blaster gun handgun. Funnily enough, I don't think Castilian robots appear in the Horus Heresy. The sole exception is oops, that's the wrong book. But basically, Rob Sanders' Cybernetica, where the Raven Guard Tech Marine in training, Draven Clade enlists the help of Magos Dominus Octobu and his first maniple of Daidari Reserve Cohort. Man, they use all these weird Latin sounding names, or is it Greek sounding names? I don't know. Anyway, Octobu, Magos Dominus Octobu, and his first maniple of Daidari Reserve Cohort, they were deployed to destroy the terraforming stations at the poles of Mars. Octobu's manifolds consist solely of Castilian robots for some reason, and this is the only mention of Castilian robots during the Heresy that I can find. All other mentions of battle automata are either Castellax, Vorax, or Tanata, with the Vortex making an appearance in Guy Haley's Wolfbane, the one piloted by Belisarius Call. And I think the Iron Warrior stories tend to have Domitas. We all know the Iron Circle or Iron Guard thing that serves Perturabo. Sorry, I'm with Chapter Master Warrock. I'm more inclined to side with the Imperial Fist than the Iron Warriors. But yeah, anyway, the Castellano robots are mainly 40k and not 30k, whereas the other automata are what you would think of as Heresy era Legio Cybernetica. It's kind of sad that we don't have rules for them in 10th edition. That said, they do appear in lore. So there's a Castellax Battle Automata appearing in one of the Blackstone Fortress stories, the anthology Worlds of Obsidian, in the short story Nega World by Nicholas Wolff. So here we have a character called Margos Vestus Arturus Rhine, par for the course for Mechanicus names, I guess, owns a Castellax battle automata that fights alongside his Cataphron destroyer, and he uses them to destroy the traitor Grandish 82nd in the Blackstone Fortress because he wants to steal Archaeotech for the Adeptus Mechanicus, obviously. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned and he succumbs to the protagonist, who is now a Nega Vote cultist, and is led by Reclamator Threat. So Threat is revealed to be a traitor. Anyway, the point is that all that remains of the Legio Cybernetica are Castilian robots, unless we get new models and the whole thing gets retconned in future codexes or release, which I doubt because we just got a 10th edition Adeptus Mechanicus codex about a couple of months ago. So yeah, I don't think we're getting any new robots anytime soon. Well, anyway, the Horus Heresy era automata all ended up fading away into legends for some reason. So yeah, apparently after the Horus Heresy, the Legio Cybernetica's robots have been controlled completely by sanctified doctrina wafers held by their masters. Yeah, that's kind of complex. So instead of the bioplastic cerebra and nerves-like tendril webs of the Mechanicum's oldest Legio Cybernetica automata, they have sanctified doctrinal wafers. Now, this actually caused to mind our foray into the past, where the Imperial robots were controlled by wetware, small slices of bioplastic about the same size as a credit card. If you remember the White Dwarf article I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So yeah, only now instead of a credit card, the Codex uses cards of the Emperor's Tarot. So yeah, in-universe reference, I guess. So the Cybernetica datasmith has to manually insert the doctrinal wafers into data slots hidden behind each robot's chest plate. And if he wants to switch protocols, he has to manually remove the first doctrinal wafer and replace it with a new one. There are 3 protocols. The Protector protocol, which is basically shoot more, used to right now it's add 2 to attacks characteristic of ranged weapons. but it can't be when. But it used to be that you can't move but can shoot twice with your carapace weapons in 7th edition. And in 8th edition, you basically double shots with all range weapons, but you can't move and charge. And then you can't move and charge, but you become ballistic skill 3 up in 9th edition. So those were the I guess various versions throughout the different editions. Then you have the Conqueror Protocol, which is basically beat up your enemies with your fist more. So again, add to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons, but it used to be just double the attacks characteristics, but you can't shoot in 7th edition. Or in 8th edition, you fight twice, but can't shoot. And then in 9th edition, you become weapon skill 2 up and you can reroll charges, but you can shoot, I guess. So yeah. And the Aegis Protocol, which simply equates to tank hits like a boss. Which also means that Meltas will now only wound you on a 5 up instead of a 4 up. It didn't used to be that way though. In 7th edition, it was a 5 up feel no pain. In 8th edition, it added 1 to saving throws. And in 9th edition, it was add 1 to armor saves, but no more. But you don't get the invulnerable save bonus. So I think by now we can ignore the whole Grim Dark. There are so few Castellan robots left, and the secrets of their construction have been lost to time. And you know, the old Codex Slav, where tech priests or the mechanicals will go through any lengths to recover lost or damaged robots, because we basically need ways of replacing and repairing them, otherwise we won't be able to fill them in the game, given the constant attrition and lethality of 9th edition. 10th edition made them tougher, but they still die and blow up, and it's kind of annoying to have to salvage new ones from somewhere in a place that conveniently has Archaeotech and Cybernetica relics. So I'm just gonna say, you know, I guess the Mechanicals has found some way to manufacture them. It's just that they are difficult and require a lot of resources, so you don't see them as often as you would like. It makes more sense than the usual we can't build them anymore because the secrets of their technology are lost. And somehow gamers still fill them over and over again no matter how many times their robots get blown up and destroyed. So yeah, that's kind of weird. I'm not sure what to say because you know you when you're playing a crusade game and your robots keep getting destroyed, it's like, do we have to salvage a new one? Nah, don't worry. Your local forge will provide you a new Castellano robot fresh from the forges. So I think I like that version better. But yeah, like I said, it's up to you to decide what lore you like. This is Warhammer 40,000. It's a sandbox. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this retrospective on Legio Cybernetica, and maybe I'll just do more videos for the future. We'll see. Uh, well, let me know if you don't want me and you want me to stop doing this PNG tuber video thing. You can let me know in the comments as well, and I will stop doing it. So yeah, see you until next time.